Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to do a very interesting article titled, Why Did I Let It Get So Easy to Say No? Meet the woman who says it's her fault that her husband cheated because she only agreed to have you-know-what with him once every 2 years. And big shout out to Austin for sending me this article. And guys, what we have here is a very unique and rare situation where a woman is actually openly admitting it's her fault that her marriage failed. You're going to see in this article, this is about a woman. She's in her, I believe, early 50s. This is from over in the UK. And she was with her husband for years. I think they had 3 kids. And you're going to see in this story, or this article, how after they had kids and married everything, she lost all interest in having sex. However, her husband, he wanted to still hook up. And she was not interested, and she kept turning him away again and again and again. And maybe on occasion, they might have, you-know-what, once every couple of years, like she said. And you're going to see also, she's going to talk about how she had kids, and I think after the last kid, she gained a lot of weight, and had a C-section, scarring, all that. And even though she found herself disgusting, and therefore she didn't want to be seen, that's what she claimed. But her husband, regardless that she put on weight after having kids, regardless of a scar from a C-section, he still wanted her. He was still attracted to her. He still made her feel loved and wanted and all that. And still, she would turn him away, turn him away, turn him away. Until one day, he obviously finally just gave up. And she caught him having an affair. And at first, she was pissed. And he was not, at that point, gone. He was done. Not at all apologetic about it, because he was just sick and tired of her shit. Now, I don't promote cheating. I think if it's gotten that bad, just end it, because whether it's a man or a woman, because you're not just cheating on the spouse, you're cheating on the family, the kids, all that. But you still can't blame him for being done with her, right? And now she's reflecting and realizing and telling to the world, women, you better sleep with your husband. You better fulfill his needs, otherwise he's going to walk. And now she is in her early 50s. She's alone. She's unhappy. Meanwhile, he is thriving. So the point is that people need to be taken care of in relationships, if you know what I mean. And if not, people are going to step out. And right here. But it's amazing that she's actually admitting it's her fault. I mean, shit. When does that ever happen? But anyhow, I'm going to get into this in a little more detail here, and I'll add my 2 cents along the way. So it starts off, it says, there have been times when I wanted to blame Instagram for my marriage ending. But I know what or who is really to blame, and that's me. One summer morning in July 2019, I noticed that my husband, Graham, had posted a picture of his empty plate on Instagram, having polished it off a vegan breakfast at a local cafe. He pronounced it yummy, and underneath, in the comments, a woman had written her agreement that yes, it was yummy. Curious, I clicked on her profile, and my life fell apart. On her social media page, there was a picture after picture of my husband with her. One featured a danger of falling sign, like you get on a cliff. Underneath it, someone had written, for a beautiful lady, too late, I'm already in deep. I immediately recognized my husband's handwriting, and it was then I realized I had a huge problem. I confronted Graham that evening, and he admitted it, and it was his writing. He told me he'd been seeing this woman for 4 months. I asked if they were sleeping together, and he said yes. And what more, he said he's never been happier. Ooh. Now, someone reading this for the first time be like, oh, that SOB, that bastard. Well, let's dig into this more. It was an earth-shattering, humiliating, and gut-wrenching night, one I will never forget. And yet I know a large part of the fault of his infidelity rested with me. Man, she is doubling and tripling down on the it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault. Okay. She did fuck up. I will certainly admit that in terms of, as you're going to see, but I respect she's admitting it was her fault. I lost count of the times I'd rebuffed his S-word advances, closed my bedroom door on him, and shut down any conversation around our love life. Graham and I were having sex only once every 2 years, if that, and we made love maybe 5 times over the previous decade. You can't blame this guy at all for being done with her and having those urges and eventually, it's not right, in my opinion. He should just end it with her, because here's the deal. This isn't a romantic relationship. They're roommates raising kids, okay? And he's got needs. And If they're not being met, he's going to look elsewhere. Eventually, it's going to happen. But he should have just ended it with her and moved on, and then, but it is what it is. But still, you can't blame the guy having enough. So when I read last week's anonymous piece in the mail by a married man who, after putting up with decades of no sex, started to have affairs, I winced because I could so easily have been me he was writing about. I too thought that I had the perfect marriage, with 3 happy and healthy kids and a doting, loyal husband. I assumed that because our 28-year marriage had been carefully built on love and respect, our lack of sex life didn't matter. Clearly it did. Well, clearly there wasn't any communication going on, or if there was, she just was ignoring it. And right here, loving, doting husband. Now, when I first read this, I'm thinking there's got to be more going on behind the scenes, because women have needs too, I mean, obviously, and they obviously, if there's ever a time they want to embark and to fulfill those needs, it's now. So if she's not hooking up, my question is she actually not actually attracted to men? Is that a possibility? Or is there something else going on the side? Well, I was looking at pictures of her in the article, and I'll leave a link to the article. You guys can take a look. And let's just say, I don't know how her husband was. He must have been horny to the 10th power, because I wouldn't touch her with a 500-meter pole. Now, she's British, and there's the jokes about British women when they get older and all that. Like, I heard a joke once saying that when they're young, they can look like Baby Spice. When they age, they look like Old Spice. And, well, I'll let you guys decide on that one. But, well, good Lord. It says here, on the outside, our life was pretty much perfect. Well, that's how a lot of marriages are on the outside. Everybody thinks it's perfect. We had a lovely 3-bedroom end-of-terrace house in Shoreham-by-Sea, West Sussex, with an annex from my late mother-in-law. It was a happy, busy home bursting with love. Well, not any love in the bedroom, honey. I was the breadwinner, working on the front desk of the local leisure center, while Graham ran the house and homeschooled our children. Aha, now we're getting somewhere. She brings home the bacon. She's the breadwinner. A lot of times in these scenarios, when the man is taking the role as Mr. Mom and she's taking the role as, well, Mr. Dad, she's more masculine or moving into a more masculine role. He's moving into a more feminine role, and that can have an impact on the dynamics of the bedroom action. Fast forward to today, 3 years later, and at 52, I'm single and still shuffling between rental accommodation. This is the life Is this the life I envisioned for myself in middle age? No, it isn't. I blithely assured I'd be married forever. Time after time, as I've looked around another dingy rental flat or written divorcee on my online dating profile, I've cursed myself for not prioritizing my sex life and letting my marriage die. Why did it let it get so easy to say no? When we first got together, our love life was firmly underpinned our relationship. We met through a mutual friend when I was 23 and Graham was 24. We were a great match in every way, from politics to religious beliefs. Within 6 months, we had moved in and got a mortgage together. Smack! 6 months? You're out of your freaking mind. As for our sex life, I describe it as rather frenzied. It was not unusual for us to do it 2 or 3 times a day. So back in the day. But you want to talk about a stereotype here. Couple starts getting together. They're hooking up all the time in every freaking room, in the car, out in the freaking park at night. Who knows? They get married, have kids. Bye-bye. People have needs, and if they're not being met, eventually they're going to find them elsewhere. It doesn't make it right. I don't advocate cheating in any way, shape, or form. You should communicate, and if it doesn't get anywhere, you should end it. But I was as happy as Graham was to initiate sex. And besides, why wouldn't I? Graham was a tennis coach with a firm, fit body, and I shaped up quite nicely too. I was a professional dancer, a size 8 with long legs and a flat stomach. Our daughter, now 21, was planned. For the first year after she was born, as I breastfed her, there was a subtle shift in our sex life, but we soon returned to normal. Post-baby, I was a size 10 with fuller boobs and rounded hips, but I still felt good about myself. Then 4 years later, a son came along. Our SEX life went on hold during those 6 months that I breastfed. Once again, my thoughtful husband didn't like the thought of us having SEX while my body was needed by our son, which was fine by me. You're going to see more and more this husband of hers really went above and beyond the call of duty in terms of husband duties for her, and she, neglected that. She didn't, she took it for granted. Took advantage of it, in my opinion. He was too nice, in my opinion. Later, while parenting 2 kids under 5, we were having a couple times a week. Yes, it was a drop in how often we used to do it, but we didn't mind because we were so wrapped up in family life. Little kids, all the things going on there, yeah, the SEX drops. But it's one thing if it's 2 times a week versus one time in 2 years. Taking stock, I'd say our marriage and family were rock solid. And I wasn't the only one who thought so. Everyone in our social circle said we were the perfect couple. We rarely rode and supported each other in everything. Yeah, well, when people say that other couples are the perfect couple, perfect marriage, yeah, they see what people present to the world, whether in person or on social media. They don't know what's going on behind closed doors. They don't know how he's feeling inside, she's feeling inside. It was after our 3rd child, another son, also planned, came along in 2008, that things started to change. Following 2 natural births, he was delivered via an emergency C-section. The moments leading up to it left me so traumatized. I hadn't realized my son had survived. On top of the emotional cost, there was the physical aftermath to deal with. Scarring left me with an ugly, mangled stomach that ached constantly. I couldn't sit down or stand up without the pain. It even hurt to cuddle the kids. As for the SEX, it was firmly off the agenda. I was convinced that the scar would reopen. Fortunately, Graham was incredibly understanding. See? Very patient, very loving, very understanding husband who's working with her here. He just wanted me to heal. This went on for 18 months, during which I just wanted to forget about ever having you-know-what again. Okay, she went through that whole thing, and then she's feeling ugly and everything, but okay, you gotta get over it. 18 months, that's a long time for him not to get any. By now, we've been together for almost 2 decades. Graham was my best friend. I never worried he would leave me because we were that strong couple. 2 years after the horrific birth, I was 42, a size 16, premenopausal, feeling desperately unattractive. Okay, well, she's 42. Guess what? I'm a personal trainer. I have clients, women in their 40s and 50s, have and had. And guess what? They can transform their bodies to look damn good for their 40s. So I don't want to hear that she's in her early 40s, and I don't want to hear all these other excuses that action can be taken to drop the weight. Because she's got a great husband who's cheering her on, willing to bend over backwards to help her. So I don't want to hear this, okay? Yeah, she's got the scar, and she can feel uncomfortable about that, but he obviously doesn't care. After my previous pregnancies, I lost a baby weight. Now, well, I simply couldn't bear to look at myself in the mirror. Then take action. You're older. It's harder to lose weight the older you get. And you got anybody watching this has, 40 and up, you know this, okay? That have tried. But it can be done. You have to work harder. Probably before it just came off naturally over 6 months. But you get to your 40s, yeah, it's going to take longer. Each time I breastfed the kids, we slept in separate rooms. But this time I didn't want Graham back in our bedroom. I refused to let him see me undressed. Yes, she's feeling unattractive, but she has to take action. And he has needs, and he's a good husband. And there's only so long it's going to go on like this before he's had enough. Listen to this. He kept trying to be affectionate and initiate the SEX, but I pushed him away rather brutally. I can't imagine how that routine rejection must have felt, but I generally couldn't bear the thought of it. And no, I didn't seek help. I just assured Graham accepted how I felt, and that was a new normal between us as a married couple. No, he didn't accept that, okay? He was obviously a good guy and understanding and patient and wanted to work with her, but she was being too fucking selfish and not thinking about his needs and all that, and it came back to bite her in the ass. When I finally relented 2 years after our 3rd child's birth, Graham was so loving and kept asking if I was sure I wanted to go ahead. It was over as quickly as it started. See? Right there. He was so loving and asking if I was sure. By now I was telling myself the reason we were having only once every couple of years was because the children got in the way of a part of the relationship. What if they hurt us or walked in? But I know it was just an excuse. It was an excuse. And that was not cool. At one point, I even suggested we have an open relationship. Smack! That's how much I didn't want to have the sex, although I never actually thought he'd take me up on the offer. Well, he didn't take her up on the offer. He eventually cheated without her knowing about it. I made peace with our almost sex-less marriage, telling myself my husband was happy. He was a dad of 3 and family life was important to us. Yeah, I'm sure he loves his kids and loves having the family, but if he ain't getting any, it's only so long even the best guys are going to be like, that's it, I'm done. Of course, he gently tried to initiate it or talk about us giving another go. But each time he tried to initiate a conversation, I shut him down. Because Graham is such a caring and empathetic person, I thought he'd be okay with it. Bullshit. So he's even trying to communicate and discuss these things with her because communication is key in any relationship, especially marriage. And she kept shutting him down. So again, I'm glad that she's admitting that she fucked up and she messed up the marriage. I respect it, I do, because women never admit that they're the ones that mess things up. But she screwed up big time. This guy really was trying. 3.5 years ago, when our youngest child was 11, Graham, a firm fixture on the Saturday morning park run, started a meetup with another woman to do a 5K circuit together. Now, I'm not a jealous person, and I trusted him implicitly, so it honestly didn't bother me at all. Before long, they had started going on bike rides and skateboarding together, too. Looking back, the signs were there. Graham was taking more care with his appearance and was much more upbeat and enthusiastic about life in general. I was just happy that he was happy and that the children were happy. He ain't happy. It's not what he wanted. He wanted his wife. He wanted his family, but she just pushed him away. I was so trusting of their friendship that for 4 Friday evenings on the trot, when he told me he was crashing at her place so they could get an early start for the park run, I just thought what a great friend she was. Bullshit. What did I tell you about men and women can't be friends, right? Except in this situation, he's going over to her house. You know, now she's the one that did say, well, do you want to have an open relationship? So she wouldn't have to be naked and sleep with her husband, which was the dumbest thing ever. Then I saw that Instagram post. I was furious and humiliated, and I really let him have it. Even though he was upset, he didn't apologize. I asked him to stop seeing her, and he simply refused. And there you go. He was pushed too far. And that's that. Again, I don't agree with the cheating. He should just ended it with her. Then he could have went off with this woman or whatever. But she's the one who completely ruined the marriage. He tried over and over again. What came next are words that will haunt me forever. When I pointed out that he was throwing away a 20-year-old marriage for sex, he told me we hadn't had a marriage for a long, long time. Right, because they were just roommates. They were just friends living together, raising kids, nothing more. And that ain't a fucking romantic relationship. I was utterly devastated. The betrayal was so huge that for the following 6 months, I just didn't know if I was coming or going. I couldn't eat or sleep. I came close to losing my mind. I moved out immediately and went to stay with my mum until I found a rental house for me and the kids, who were understandably broken by the split. There were many tears. Yeah, it sucks, but he tried. He really did for years. But you know what? It is far better. They divorce, and the kids can be with mom part of the time, the kids can be with dad part of the time, and at least one of them, dad, is happy. And by the way, I want to mention something here. When the SEX came to a screeching halt, she was in her early 40s. Now, a man's prime really begins in his 30s and goes on up to 40s. He can be 50s if the guy takes care of himself and has his shit together. A woman's prime goes bye-bye once she hits the big 3-0. So if there's ever a time in her 40s when she should be doing everything to make her husband happy and stick around, it was then. But that was the time when she was pushing him more and more away. But now he's in his early 50s now, and he's in good shape, takes care of himself. Notice it wasn't hard for him to get a chick. Graham stayed in the marital home because his mom lived there, and he was her caretaker. Today, a wiser me takes a less judgmental approach. I've given a lot of thought to the questions of why men have affairs. I know lots of women will say it's all his fault, and no woman has a duty to sleep with her husband, but that's not how I feel. Well, I'm glad she says that. Good for her. Looking at it from Graham's perspective, obviously the sex element of our relationship was more important to him than it was to me. I wasn't prepared to compromise or acknowledge his needs, and in the process, I lost the love of my life. That's exactly what happened, and she wouldn't even communicate with the guy. Today, Graham is 53, slim and healthy, a long-distance runner. He's a catch for any woman. What'd I tell you? In this situation, if you click on the link, you're going to see an example. Men can age like Sean Connery, and women age like Sean Connery. I'm not going to say any more. You guys will figure that out real quick. You click on the link. His affair didn't last the course, but he has a new partner, and as bittersweet as it is to admit, she's lovely. See? Things ended with the chick that he was having the affair with, which I'm not surprised. Well, he has a new chick, and she's lovely. Whereas me, I'm a mature student at university in Sussex, and despite forays into online dating, I'm still very much single. She's in her early 50s, and, well, I wouldn't touch her with a 500-meter pole. And she'd still be married in a happy marriage if she would just communicate with the guy and work on herself and all, but she didn't. She was selfish. And look what happened. Listen to this. She says, if my daughter ever decides to get married, I will be brutally honest with her about the physical side of married life. I cannot understate how important that aspect is. Because if you aren't having enough you-know-what with your husband, there are plenty of women out there who will. Yes. Lots and lots of young single women love married men or love older men that are good looking, have their shit together. And if they ain't getting any at home, they will be like, come on in. Graham says, this is a take from the now ex-husband, he says, I like to say that Sarah had a 4-year headache. The number of times I heard no over the years, it got to the stage where there was no point in asking anymore. It knocks your self-esteem when an important part of you suddenly becomes redundant. I felt drained and unhappy. I should probably have been firmer and told Sarah how much our lack of sex upset me. I do understand why she didn't want to have you-know-what anymore after having kids. It is something you can go off. But men don't have that same biological response. Whenever I tried to talk to Sarah about our lack of sex life, it was never the right time. She was either on the phone, on social media, watching TV, or she just shut me down. See? Being knocked back again and again chipped away at my psyche. There was a point when Sarah told me we should have an open relationship. It's one thing to publicly state that, but it's quite another by be accepting of it. Yeah, he wasn't going for that bullshit. So, when an opportunity presented itself, it was easy for me to justify. This other woman gave me a little bit of happiness, and I didn't feel guilty. And I'm willing to bet you it wasn't just the sex. I bet you also the fact that this other woman wanted him, really liked him, wanted to be around him, made him feel like a man, attractive, and that's part of it, guaranteed, aside from the physical element. I'm not a cruel person, but I did it to save myself after years of being ignored. I don't think Sarah's to blame. Rather, I regret that we allowed things to get to that stage and that communication broke down between us. Dude, you're still that nice guy. Don't be that nice, okay? You tried and tried and tried, and she kept shutting you down. It is her fault. It was her decision to leave. Ironically, the affair fizzled out soon afterwards. I'm not surprised there. Today, we get along well for the sake of the kids. Ironically, she listens to me more now than ever she did before. And that is the end of the article, guys. And like I said, perfect example of why in relationships and marriages, the sex has to keep on going. I know plenty of people are married with kids, and I got friends and all that. And they talk about, once the kids are around, you're tired all the time from work and raising the kids and homework and sports and all that shit, but they still hook up. Okay, and as much as like when they were younger, but they still hook up and all that. And these are families I know that have pretty decent marriages, at least it seems. But a lot of other ones, darn well there's no hooking up going on, and you can just see both parties are miserable, and it doesn't surprise me sometimes. It ain't right, the cheating, but it doesn't surprise me eventually, and the dude in that case will step out. It's interesting, but the woman will usually step out because she just wants more attention and validation and feel empowered and all that. The guy will do it when he ain't getting any at home a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. But the point is, moral of the story is, number one, amazing. A woman's actually admitting she fucked up and ruined the marriage, and she's telling other women, don't make the same mistake I did, which I respect. And two, got to keep up hooking up, otherwise, because again, it ain't a relation. It ain't a romantic relationship. There's no sex going on. So, anyway, guys, that'd be an interesting article to cover. And again, notice he's thriving. He's in his early 50s. He's kicking ass and taking names, and she is alone and not going anywhere, and not to be at all surprised. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this, and be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.